And now on the line is Dubliner Katie Morris, and we're going to talk about Katie's experience in and with Palestine and about the new petition she has started. Katie, welcome to the programme.
Cheers, thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, cool. Katie, could you start off by telling our listeners a bit about your background, please, and about how it happened that you spent time in Palestine?
Yeah, no problem. So I've been studying this conflict probably since about 2014. My undergrad was in journalism, and then I did a master's in international conflict and media. And I kind of just got really, really interested about this one conflict, and the opportunity came up to go over in 2016 just to see for myself what was really happening. So I took that opportunity and I went on a week-long trip, and then I just felt like that wasn't enough. So the year later in 2017 I went again, and then through the person that organised those trips I was sent a link about EAPPI, so the Ecumenical Accompaniment Programme in Palestine and Israel, and they give you the opportunity to spend 3 months living and working with different peace groups in different areas of Palestine and Israel. So I applied for that, and I was lucky enough to get through. And then I went over then in October of last year, and I came home in January of this year.
That's amazing. You were there for 3 months. We'll talk a bit more about that in a couple minutes. You are the second person I've interviewed from the EAPPI, Katie. I interviewed.
Really?
Yeah, I interviewed a lady, Jenny Derbyshire, at the 20.
Yeah, I know Jenny.
You know her? Yeah, I was just
curious.
I've
heard her name.
Yeah, it was at the 2014 Irish Aid Volunteering Fair. I was just curious to see if you knew her. Okay. Are the EAPPI neutral on what is happening in Palestine and Israel, Katie, or are they, because of the situation, pro-Palestinian?
No, they wouldn't be pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli. What they say they are, and what they really are, is that they are impartial, and they have a principle called principled impartiality, which means that they know there is two sides to every conflict, and they listen to those two sides. But they do know that one side is carrying out human rights abuses and has a lot more power than the other side. So it is an unequal struggle of what's going on.
Okay, what do you make of Donald Trump's recent decision to declare the BDS movement illegal in the US, Katie?
I think there's a lot of charges around BDS and linking it to anti-Semitism. And that's not necessarily true, because if you look at what the core of BDS calls for, so what BDS is at the core of it is calling for a boycott of products and principles that align with the occupation. They're not calling for a boycott of the Israeli state. So it's stuff that's made in settlements, or it's stuff that would harm Palestinians in that way.
Okay, we talk about... Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so Donald Trump calling for that to be made illegal he's kind of infringing on freedom of expression and freedom of speech. Like, you should be able to choose where you buy your products from based on the morals that you have. So if he's making that illegal, then he's kind of touching on freedom of speech.
Okay, I have a couple more questions about the kind of international picture, foreign policy for other countries. But can you tell me a bit about your experience for the 3 months? Were you based in Palestine for the 3 months, or Israel as well, or what's the story?
I moved around between the two, but for the most part I was based in East Jerusalem. For 3 months I was living and working there, and then for a few weeks I spent time in Israel. I went down as far as Eilat and as high up as Haifa. And I spent time in other Palestinian areas such as Hebron, Al-Khalil, and Tulkarm as well. And what I was doing while I was over there is human rights monitoring. So you're kind of a mixture of a human rights observer and a care worker. You go around to vulnerable families or people in different towns. You hear what issues they have, if they've had any recent issues, such as they could have been refused from a checkpoint, they could have had their house graffitied, they could have had their house raided. And you go around and you record their stories and you take statements from them. And then you compile all that into a database, and then those reports go out to different NGOs. So it could be Amnesty International, it could be the Red Cross, different ones like that.
And what are how did you find the conditions of the people that you're working with, like the communities you're working with? Like, how bad is it for them? Like,
It's not bad in terms of absolute poverty. It's bad in terms of absolute occupation. So everything that you do in your life is controlled by the occupation. If you live in Tulkarem, you can't come to Jerusalem to visit your family, you need a permit. If you live in Jerusalem, you can't go to other parts of Jerusalem, you need a permit. So everything is controlled by permit systems. So it's this iron fist occupation that controls parts of your life that you wouldn't even think about. They have to jump through hoops just to be able to live properly. So their family could own a shop and they could be not rich, but they wouldn't be starving from day to day. So it's not bad in terms of poverty that way. It is in some areas, but not in the areas that I've seen. It's more the control over every aspect of your life. It's the problem there.
Do you and your colleagues in the EAPPI, Katie, have any hope that a Joe Biden administration in the US will be able to bring influence on the Israeli government to be more realistic and fair in the treatment of the Palestinians and to end the settlements they have built illegally on Palestinian land?
I can only speak for myself because I haven't actually talked to the organisation about the administration change, but I myself would be hopeful. You can see what's going on now, that everything is being rushed through in the hopes that they can do whatever they want before the Trump administration ends and Joe Biden comes in, because I do believe he's going to act more presidential. He's going to rein it in a little bit. He's not a friend of Palestine. He's definitely a friend of Israel, but he will act more presidential and be able to rein some stuff in. I think that's what's happening at the moment in Sheikh Jarrah, and that's what the petition that I've started is about. There's a lot of forced evictions going on, and I think in the final days of the Trump administration, they're trying to get away with what they can.
Okay, and do you want to tell us more about your petition?
Yeah, it's called Hands Off Sheikh Jarrah, and it's calling on Minister for Foreign Affairs Simon Coveney to take action. There's up to 400 people are at risk of imminent eviction in that one neighbourhood of East Jerusalem. So the petition is calling on Simon Coveney to act on that. So I can tell the story of Sheikh Jarrah through one resident. His name is Mohammed Al-Sabah. He's in his 70s now, but he was originally from Jaffa. He was originally from Jaffa. And him and his family fled during the Nakba, and that was in 1948. And that was when between 750,000 and 1 million Palestinians were driven from their homelands. And he settled in Sheikh Jarrah. The UN had built homes there for refugees, and he's one of the residents that's at risk of forced eviction at the moment. So for him, the Nakba has never ended, and he's currently facing becoming a refugee for the second time in his life.
And your petition mentions him, doesn't it?
It mentions him, but it's about all the residents there. I thought the best way to tell the story of what's happening there was to put a human face on it.
Okay, and where can people find your petition, Katie?
And they can find it on myuplift.com, or they can just Google Hands Off Sheikh Jarrah. That's SHEIK or AH.
And are you going to wait for long before you give the petition to Simon Coveney?
Well, I'm hoping to get 1,000 signatures, and then I can give it to him. He was facing parliamentary questions this morning, and I've had great political reaction to my petition. I've heard from nearly all political parties, and they have raised the issue with him. I don't think the question was selected this morning. I couldn't tune in because I was in work, but I've not heard anything back on it. So there is the political appetite from other political parties in this country for him to act on the Palestinian issues, but we're yet to hear.
Yeah, I do believe that the Irish political parties generally are pro-Palestinian. I remember it was 10 years ago or longer than that, I think it was the Israeli ambassador to Ireland, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but said that Ireland is the most pro-Palestinian country in Europe. Did you get that impression as well?
Yeah, I think with Sweden and Finland as well, although I think one thing to mention about this particular issue and a lot of issues going on in Palestine at the moment is there are a lot of people that wouldn't see it as pro-Palestinian or pro-Israelis. At the moment, most international agencies are gone, and the people on the ground helping Palestinians at the moment would be Israeli peace activists.
Okay, Katie, it's great talking to you. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners before you go, Bill?
No, just sign and share the petition if you can.